Imagine watching the place you've grown up in vanish right before your eyes. Everything you come to know, everyone you come to meet, places you spent the most time in, left to be forgotten and abandoned. This is what happened to the town of Centralia, Pennsylvania. What once used to be a busy, prosperous mining town in central Pennsylvania now exists as an empty, hollow shell. And the reason? An essentially man-made catastrophe that spiraled far out of control. Today, we're going to observe what was, what happened to, and what is left of Centralia, a town on fire. Centralia was a small mining town located around central Pennsylvania, located by Ashland and Mount Carmel, about 15 miles from Ellisburg and 20 miles from Bloomsburg. While initially discovered in the late 1700s, Centralia, or what was known initially as Centerville, would go on to become known as a large site for mining coal during the mid-1800s, after the land was purchased by the Locust Mountain Coal and Iron Company in 1842. In 1854, Centerville began to embrace large-scale mining following the completion of the Mine Run Railroad, serving as a means to transport anthracite coal out of the mountains and onto the market efficiently. After the area grew in popularity due to the amount of coal located in the region and a rising economy, the once small mining area began to grow and thrive, leading to the borough of Centralia being established in 1866. The town hosted a plethora of different hotels, saloons, churches, theaters, a bank, a post office, as well as a bunch of general stores. The mining of coal not only served as a fuel source for many Americans during the time period, but served as the primary fuel source for the town's economy. However, this level of prosperity wouldn't last. Times were beginning to change, and so Centralia had to adapt. World War I caused many young, able-bodied men to leave small mining towns such as Centralia, slowing down the excavation and distribution of coal. Strikes conducted by coal miners and the arrival of newer forms of energy on the market further weakened the demand for anthracite coal. Coal mining was slow to die in the region, and only continued to dwindle as the 1900s carried on, especially in the 1960s, when nearly all of the remaining companies that would mine coal have hence shut down. However, this was only the beginning of what would ultimately become the end for this small, lively mining town. Fast forward to May 27, 1962, a day that would forever change the history of Centralia. The true reasoning for how the events mentioned moving onward began does not have a concrete theory, but there is one that most people define as the most likely version of this story. At the request of the borough's council, the decision was made to set fire to the Centralia landfill to get rid of a large pile of trash for the upcoming Memorial Day celebration. However, the location of said landfill happened to be built right over an abandoned strip mine used during the town's heyday. Supposedly, an ember from the burning landfill managed to travel its way into the strip mine and ignite what would be known today as the Centralia Mine Fire. Despite initial efforts to put the fire out, no method proved to be successful and would continue to reignite and come back. To make matters worse, it slowly began to spread beyond the landfill and into the coal mines right below the town. While large-scale efforts were considered to combat the issue, budget cuts by the Pennsylvania Department of Mines and Mineral Industries severely impacted what the town could do to fix the problem. Efforts over the years continued to try and stop the fire, which at this point has spread as deep as 225 feet into the earth, but none of them helped to solve the problem, and people have started to grow worried about the future of Centralia. By 1969, residents would begin to feel the effects from the fire, such as the harmful gases rising from the ground. Through the 70s, the town struggled to figure out what to do for their town, as the fire continued to spread and create harmful conditions for the people living there. The fire began to become such a problem for the town that places such as gas stations were forced to close down due to the rising temperatures below the town. With citizens of Centralia growing more and more frustrated over the severe lack of effort to mitigate the issue, many people began to call for their homes to be bought and relocated out of town. However, a substantial size of the town believed that no problem from the fire even existed in the first place, creating an impasse that would ultimately lead to the town's demise. Moving forward into the 80s, a new problem threatened the town: sinkholes. Due to the high temperatures, sections of the ground began to give way, creating a potentially fatal hazard for those living in the area. Most famously, Todd Domboski, who only barely escaped with his life after almost falling into a massive sinkhole that opened up right under him. These sinkholes would continue to spread all over the town, creating large divots in the ground which proved to be quite hazardous. With the quality of life in Centralia slowly on a decline, the rest of the 80s and 90s led to a slow relocation of the town's citizens, who received compensation from Congress for their relocation. While most moved out, some decided to stay, unable to leave the town that meant so much to them. But for those people who did decide to stay, all that's left was a town that was left abandoned, empty, and a shell of its former glory. It wouldn't be long until even the zip code for Centralia would soon fade away, turning it truly into its own ghost town. I had the opportunity to visit what's left of Centralia today. With Centralia becoming a ghost town, it of course attracted the interest of tourists, photographers, or just curious passerbys. The primary landmark of Centralia would be the abandoned stretch of road that was Pennsylvania Route 61, now known as the Graffiti Highway. Due to the underground fires which damaged the roadway, the road would eventually be abandoned and a new road would be built around it, replacing the old 61. The entire stretch of road features graffiti from a plethora of different people, almost serving as a man-made landmark. However, if you went to that abandoned stretch of road, it was easy to observe massive cracks in the ground and sometimes natural gases flowing upwards from the ground, a feature that can still be seen in the town today. However, in different locations. However, in 2020, the highway would become covered in huge amounts of dirt and sand due to large numbers of tourists gathering and irritating nearby residents. In today's age, Centralia serves as a means to observe what was. During the time I spent gathering footage, I came across sections of road, an entire building, abandoned sections of structures. It was also intriguing to discover and see what little remnants of this place exist. Even with the now buried highway, there are still parts of the highway that remain untouched, allowing people to get a glimpse of what was. Centralia is a prime example of the kind of mining towns that boomed in the late 1800s, but a dying industry and the actions of the town created a slow, damaging decline to a place that many people used to call home. Though the town won't ever truly become irrelevant due to the interest of tourists and the surplus of documentaries out there, the fire will continue to ravage the area of Centralia. Given the nature of the town, it's near impossible that fire will stop anytime soon, and will probably stay ablaze for many, many years to come. This was Centralia, the town on fire.